Welcome to the Dacus Report, hosted by Pacific Justice Institute founder and president Brad Dacus. For 25 years, PJI has counseled, represented, and defended people whose religious freedoms, parental rights, or sanctity of life have been obstructed or violated, all free of charge. We leave no one behind and level the playing field for Americans as they are subjected to the tyranny of the powerful. Now, here's Brad Dacus.
Welcome to Brad Dacus Live. I'm Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. On today's show, we're going to be looking at a number of hot issues from the Supreme Court on down, affecting your freedoms and your rights. And help me do that today, we have with us here a friend of mine and someone who actually keeps track with a lot what's going on, attorney Kurt English. Thank you, Kurt, for joining us.
Nice to be here today, Brad. We have a big news day with the Supreme Court.
Oh, a big one. And I am delighted. Now, I thought this Supreme Court was going to rule this way, but I didn't think they would come down with an 8-1 decision. And this case is involving the Colorado ban on conversion therapy, which we're not talking about water torture or electric shock therapy. We're talking just about talking therapy to help a minor who wants therapy regarding LGBTQ issues, and the counselor is a Christian. She wants to provide that kind of faith-based Christian counseling to help them work through their underlying causation for why they have these feelings that they don't want to have. The client's happy, the counselor's happy, but the state of Colorado wasn't happy and passed this law banning that kind of reasonable counseling, and this went all the way to the United States Supreme Court.
So what parents wanted to do is to have a Christian counselor talk to their child who was struggling with issues about same-sex attraction and give them biblical counseling about how that's a sin and coping with ways to have normal attraction to the opposite sex, which is very valuable. And the Supreme Court ruled that the Christian counselor had the First Amendment right of free speech. They should have also said freedom of religion, but free speech to give that advice. Obviously the right rule, except the incompetent Justice Jackson ruled the wrong way.
Yeah, she's the only one. And then when you look at how she, her rational thinking of it, it's obvious that she does not have the level of, how do I say this, training, legal competency,
legal scholarship
to be on the Supreme Court.
Well, even Justice Kagan, who's a liberal, ruled that obviously it was a First Amendment case. Even Justice Sotomayor, who isn't the brightest bulb either, ruled the right way.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't think Sotomayor was going to go with this because it seems like her and Jackson are always like, it's about their feelings and their liberal feelings. It's not about cognitive, scholarly, deductive reasoning and contemplation. It's just more compulsive about their ideology. So I thought Sotomayor was, I didn't think we'd have her either, but even she saw this. So it was 8-1. Only Justice Jackson, had the whatever to rule against it. The poor judgment to rule against it. But it's a very powerful decision in that it's not just affecting Colorado. I mean, my understanding is, Kurt, that there's some 20 plus or about 20 states around the country that have passed laws like Colorado banning and prohibiting the ability for parents to be able to get counseling for their children who have same-sex attraction, gender identity, these kinds of issues from a licensed Christian counselor wanting to provide that counseling in view and in respect for that underlying religious conviction and faith.
So, Brad, what do you think a liberal state would do if a psychologist was trying to get a child to be gay? Do you think they would ban that?
No.
Okay.
No, they
so
would.
It's only a one-way ban here.
Yeah, and I think and the Supreme Court looked at that. The majority said, well, wait a minute. We have other states here across the country, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, where they're allowed to get this kind of counseling. They're allowed to get this kind of viewpoint, based upon the counseling that they're seeking for their minor child, much less, of course, adults as well. And they said, you're really just wanting one-way viewpoint here, one-way perspective. This isn't like a medical procedure. It's not like a prescription that has proven benefits. This is about a viewpoint and an approach, and the fact that it doesn't comport to your radical leftist ideology, Colorado. Too bad. That's the First Amendment protects this kind of talk-based therapy. I'll be honest with you. I thought when they were taking this up, I thought, you know what? They're just going to rule the status quo probably. They're going to rule, to uphold the policies that have been implemented now and allowing people, just whoever's born here, doesn't matter how they got here, that they're automatic citizens. But it looks like this Supreme Court is not going to just look at custom or look at what's been done in the past. They're actually going to look at the Constitution. They're going to look at what the language actually says, what it was intended to say. And with that, I think there's actually a good chance that the Supreme Court is going to rule that not everyone who's born here is just automatically a citizen. What say you?
Well, there's an abuse of the system going on called birth tourism.
What's that?
Where pregnant women will come to the United States just before they're scheduled to give birth on vacation and have to go to the hospital because they're going to give birth. And they're going to claim the child is an American citizen. They bring the child back to their country. Even
China.
Countries, yes, that are hostile to us, like China. But that child, according to the liberals, would then be an American citizen. Then we have illegal aliens that will cross the border just to have babies.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting to note, some people may be saying to themselves, well, why would a parent who lives in China come to the United States so that their child could be a U.S. citizen when they're going back to China? There's actually a selfish reason, isn't there, for why they want their child to be a U.S.
Well, there's
citizen?
many reasons. One, the people who are allowed to travel to America are affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party that wants to destroy America. Communism is at odds with our Constitution, our values, our culture.
Of course.
And, of course, the Christian religion, because Karl Marx said the religion is the opiate of the people.
Right.
So these people are America's enemies. So they want these people to be U.S. citizens so they could send them here, as there are over 200,000 Chinese citizens in American universities to spy on us, to collect intelligence, and potentially to be an army in our own midst.
Well, and also even just more directly and personally to the people doing that, they know that if their child is a U.S. citizen, then their child can go back, say they're 18, come back to America, get a job, make lots of money, and either A, send that money back to them in China, or B, use their citizenship as a tool to get their parents to come out of China to be able to come to the United States. The majority of those who legally become a part of this country's citizenship do so because their children or relative became a citizen of the United States. That's how they come in. It's not because they have merit, not because they've waited in a line, et cetera. They use that provision to allow them to become citizens, to come to the country because their child or relative has become a part of the United States, become a citizen. And then they have their relatives and their kids and more relatives. So it's really a tool to be able to get the whole family in the United States to reap the benefits of the United States at the expense of the taxpayers and even our own national security, potentially, as you've already mentioned.
Well, and that's called chain migration. And so there are efforts underway to end chain migration.
Yeah, and we need to have that done without question. That's very important. So what about the oral arguments that took place? Or it's going to so
tomorrow.
We're gonna have oral arguments tomorrow. How do you think this is going to turn out? Do you think they're going to? How broad do you think it's going to be?
Well, the legal issue is that the 14th Amendment, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed at the end of the Civil War, just after it ended in the mid to late 1860s, to guarantee, one of the provisions was to guarantee that black slaves were U.S. citizens. So the key phrase is, everyone is a citizen born here who was subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Now, we have a matter coming up dealing with the Biden era. And apparently their government, the Biden era government, tried to censor and order social media to censor issues dealing with COVID, information dealing with Hunter Biden and the laptop. Um, I mean, it was a sad day that a lot of people couldn't communicate because the Biden administration, the government, not a private entity, the government was pushing social media to censor speech that it didn't like, and they got away with it. Well, at least it seemed like they got away with it. There's actually a lawsuit filed.
They get away with it? They lost the 2024 election in part because of government bullying. The people don't like it when the government bullies them and tells them what they can say, and they voted accordingly. I mean, Donald Trump won the popular vote and the Electoral College.
Right. So we saw there was a political impact, but a lawsuit was filed by the state of Missouri.
State of Missouri and others.
So what happened?
And the case was going to the Supreme Court, and the Trump Department of Justice conceded the case essentially and entered into a consent decree, an agreement with the plaintiffs, basically saying, you're right. We agree that you're right. And with a consent decree, I guess the Supreme Court blesses it. And I'm not a Supreme Court litigator like you are and the PJI team, so I'm not sure what precedential value the consent decree has, but I know the Obama administration entered into consent decrees with police departments that are still being enforced today.
Yes, and until they are challenged and reversed, they are binding if they're accepted by the federal court, by the judge or the circuit at handling the matter, and that's apparently what we're looking at here. So this is very positive. It sends a loud message to government entities, not just federal, but also state government entities that, you cannot use your power to censor speech on private forums and platforms like Meta and others. So I think it's good. We would not have this consent decree, but for the Trump administration and their Department of Justice.
Elections have consequences, Brad.
Yeah, sometimes for bad, sometimes for good. In this case, it's for good. Otherwise, this case would still be going on, and who knows?
So, if I was one of those plaintiffs that was particularly disadvantaged by this, I would sue the state actor in the federal government who ordered my censorship or my account to be terminated. I would sue them personally for conspiring, and all their friends to conspiring to violate my civil rights.
Yeah.
Again, the process is the punishment, and I think I would get a nice. And in the federal government, I would get a nice settlement, I think.
Yeah, very good. Well, folks, when we return, we're going to talk about a very important homeschooling matter in the state of Connecticut that could be coming to a state near you. We return right after this.
At PJI, we exist to serve everyone in need of counsel, representation, and defense of their religious liberties, parental rights, and the sanctity of life. We don't take cases based on how high profile they are. We are workhorses, not show horses. Keep current on PJI's work on all the legal challenges we face on a daily basis by signing up for our Legal Insider email newsletter at pji.org. Now, back to the Dacus Report.
Welcome back. And folks, we at Pacific Justice Institute, as we mentioned earlier, we have over 1,300 cases in active litigation being handled in 37 offices coast to coast, all across the country, all without charge. If you'd like to keep up with our cases, or perhaps you need help, just go to our website, pji.org. Be aware of what's happening. Be a prayer warrior. Intercede for the work that we're doing. It's very important for not just you, but also your children, your grandchildren. pji.org. Also, I want to let you know that we at Pacific Justice Institute, we need to hire more attorneys. We have more cases coming in Texas and New York specifically. So if you know of someone in those states who may be an attorney, maybe they just finished law school, just passed the bar exam, maybe they've been practicing for 30, 40 years. Maybe they can work part-time, maybe they can work full-time, maybe they can volunteer. Whatever the case, we need to increase our attorney legal staff and team in both of those states. So if you're interested, please contact us. Go to our website, pji.org, pji.org.
But Brad, over 100 districts are doing the secret social transition policies
Is it
in the
over
United States.
over
1,000.
100?
I'm sorry, over 1,000.
Over 1,000 school districts
Yep.
are doing this.
Yeah. So this
Behind
abuse is
closed doors.
widespread secretly. The kids know it, but they're trying to keep it from the parents. And as we've discussed on this show before, parental rights are protected by a Supreme Court decision. And unfortunately for the liberals, it's in the same line of cases as Roe versus Wade and Griswold. So they have to say that abortion and contraception aren't a right if parents' rights are not a right.
And we at Pacific Justice Institute, we stand ready to file 1,000 lawsuits against these 1,000 school districts. But we can't unless parents contact us.
Yeah.
And we're the only organization in the country, by God's grace, that has offices all over the country. So we can do it. We've got the bandwidth. We've got the 37 offices coast to coast. We just need parents to contact us.
Well, but it's not just in deep blue states like Massachusetts. There's also one of these cases in Florida where parents were not told about a 13-year-old girl that adopted a male name and pronouns at school. And even in red Florida, a dumb judge ruled against the parents. And now the Supreme Court is taking the case. Yeah. And again, I think we're going to get a good result there.
Yeah, I think the Supreme Court is going to put nails in this coffin and make sure it's resolved once and for all. It's a very, very powerful case, and I'm very pleased with that. I understand that there's a government takeover of private school admissions processes taking place. What's going on?
So imagine this outrage. So in the state of Maryland, they passed a bill to force all private schools, including Christian schools, to hand over their admission process to the government. This includes kindergarten, elementary school, junior high, high school, and colleges.
Wow.
So,
and colleges.
Yeah, so if you're a Christian school and you want to teach a Bible-based curriculum and teach that boys can't dress up like girls and girls can't dress up like boys, the state of Maryland wants to force you to take students that don't comply with your values and your religious teachings.
That's, how do you say, dangerous?
Well, it's illegal.
Yeah, and I think it's unconstitutional.
Yeah, so
clearly. So,
litigation incoming if that passes.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, we stand ready to take on Maryland. We have an office right there in Maryland with a very competent attorney. So we'll see where that ends up and what happens. I understand that allowing children to be kidnapped from school by strangers has been codified in the state of California.
Yeah, we talked about that on an earlier show in 2025. In fall 2025, California passed the infamous AB 495. The original stated purpose of the law was, since the Trump administration was deporting illegal aliens, if there was a child that was still here in school, they wanted to give someone temporary custody to be able to take the child to the doctor or something like that. But then, as liberals often do, they expanded the scope of this to allow anyone to fill out an affidavit, take it to a school or a daycare center, and say, I'm now the guardian of this child. And the school was not allowed to protest it, to verify it, to ask for anybody's ID, or any of the usual due diligence you would do to prevent child trafficking. So it was a law that was intended for a narrow purpose, but intentionally and in an evil heart expanded to a greater purpose to allow kidnapping and trafficking of children by someone who's willing to lie on an affidavit. Now, I can report that there are Christian schools in California that, when that passed, said, we will not cooperate. We'll call the police and we'll litigate. And again, Christian people better be ready to fight, because if you don't fight, your rights are going to be trampled.
Now, I have two bits of good news. First, school districts that don't want to allow strangers just to come in without ID, they can adopt their own policies to firm this up. The problem is 95% of the school districts are willing to do that. They just are letting it to be as it is, let strangers come in. The second bit of good news is, let's say you're in a school district that's among the 95% that are not lifting a finger to provide those appropriate policies and protections. Parents can still put the school district on notice in writing as to those individuals that do have permission in emergency situations to take the child on a temporary basis. And they can do that and put that actually in the opt-out form. The parents say, well, what opt-out form is there? Well, we have one for free on our website right now, pji.org, affording and allowing parents to be able to use that. Also, we address other issues as well, that I strongly encourage parents to go to our website and take advantage of that free resource.
To learn the things you have to learn to be functional as an adult.
Right.
They're not sending them there to undermine the parents' values or to do left-wing political activism. That's not appropriate. It's an abuse of public funds, and it's an abuse of the students to do that during school hours.
Yeah. I know like one school district, they've got a good school board, but it's a Capistrano Unified School District in Southern California. Their high schools did allow this to happen. These young people to leave without parental consent.
Yeah, but there have been liberals in Capistrano Valley District for decades. Jim Fleming was one of the principals there. He was always a liberal.
Yeah. So the point is, even if you're in a seemingly red school district with conservative pro-parent rights school boards, you still have principals, like you pointed out. You have public school teachers using their education time for political purposes, political indoctrination. That's why these kids were out there. They had absolutely no idea what they were doing, and it's shame and disgrace upon those teachers and those principals. And parents need to call and let them know. Say, hey, I just want you to know I see what you're doing. This is irresponsible. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Obviously, teachers are behind this. Students wouldn't be doing this on their own without being coerced and indoctrinated and spurred on by radicals. And this is unacceptable. And I'm pulling my child from your public high school. You're not gonna allow this to happen. And it's also dangerous, by the way. They're allowing these kids to leave campus without proper supervision or anything.
Well, in one case, Brad, they had high school kids on the edge of a thoroughfare with cars driving by in the lanes at full speed.
Right.
Why would you do that during school hours?
Yeah, and that's what I saw happening as well.
Yeah.
So it's very irresponsible.
It's endangering children.
Yeah, it's endangering. So the Capistrano Unified School District is not a healthy one. It's not a safe one. And I say that I'm pointing them out specifically because I happen to see it firsthand. Parents should not be having their children in that school
Brad,
district.
I've got a message to every parent and grandparent watching. Get your kids out of government-run schools. Get them out. Homeschool, private schools, there are churches that have homeschool co-ops where they have blended programs.
And we at Pacific Justice actually were aggressively promoting those 2 months before the pandemic even hit. And we got, for example, there's a Calvary Chapel in Huntington Beach, and they started a church homeschool co-op. We work with them to do it. It is flourishing. And these kids are getting a great education at this homeschool co-op. It's legal. We've gone to bat. We've protected them. And we stand ready to protect and empower churches across America. School, great opportunity to reach out to their community, have an influence on not only children, but also families as well.
Well, and people watching who have an expertise can volunteer to teach. If you're a scientist or an engineer, teach a science course in one of these courses. Do it one time. Just help out.
Yeah, and it's been very positive moving forward. So folks, if you'd like information on how you can start a church homeschool co-op, it's really easy. Just go to our website, pji.org, pji.org, and you can get that information. We'll help you, work with you. We've got offices all across the country, whether you're in Maine or whatever, Florida, wherever it may be, Hawaii. Just go ahead, contact us. We'd love to help you. And in fact, I do a lot of guest speaking. I just came back this week. I spoke in Dallas, and I went and spoke in Florida. Coming up, I'm going to be speaking soon in Hawaii. It's such a short trip, though. My wife's not going with me. She says, "You got to fly in and out." I says, "I don't have time to enjoy Hawaii." So she says, "Okay, fine. You fly there and fly back."
Well, let's pray for the people whose houses were damaged in the rain and the floods.
Oh, yes, definitely. So, but we went there once earlier this year
and
already.
The awful fire in Maui, a couple of years ago too.
Yeah. So I went there, spoke there recently for the pastors, another time recently for attorneys and judges. It's going to be, I'm going to be speaking at a pro-life clinic in the near future. So it's going to be a great time. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kurt. Appreciate it. Look forward to our next opportunity to visit.
Thank you. pji.org.
You got it, buddy. All right, folks. So there you have it. It's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president of the Pacific Justice Institute. Let's continue the fight for your freedoms.
We would love the opportunity to continue to serve you. Just visit pji.org and click the Legal Insider button to sign up for our email newsletter. At PJI, we help individual employees, employers, business owners, pastors, students, citizens of every stripe through our practical resources, counsel, representation, and defense, all free of charge at pji.org. PJI is an island of stability and assurance in our ever-churning sea of legal and societal chaos. We are here for you.
So, folks, just remember, it's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president of the Pacific Justice Institute. Let's continue the fight for your freedoms.